Every time a new Australian employee or business person relocates to Asia, you can usually guarantee there'll be a significant impact on their family and their friends. And it often involves moving and resettling children, which necessitates all sorts of adjustments. This can leave partners, or those often referred to as trailing spouses, in a difficult and sometimes stressful situation after sacrificing their own needs to accompany their partner. Jamie Simpson is a Singapore-based Australian counsellor who's built a business out of helping those in transition adapt to their new lives. Charlotte Glennie reports from Singapore.
Children will be children wherever they are, but uprooting and moving a family from one country to another presents many challenges. Just ask their mum. Australian Jamie Simpson has moved for her husband's career as a trailing spouse to a foreign place twice now, once to Hong Kong in 2003, and then last year she relocated to Singapore.
When I arrived in Hong Kong, I was given a dependent pass visa, and the passport was stamped, dependent pass, unable to take up employment. And I looked at my husband at the time. We'd only been married 6 months, and I said, I don't remember this being a deal coming to Hong Kong.
Stopped from working and cast adrift from her support base back home in Sydney, Jamie says she began to feel increasingly lost.
As much as I loved meeting new people and going for coffees, I wasn't going to be the trailing spouse that played tennis, went to the gym and drank champagne and went to high tea. I'd already studied counselling and life coaching, and I thought to myself, if other people are stuck in the role of a trailing spouse, if other people are not really sure what their purpose is, because I'm feeling that way, there must be other women out there who felt that way too. You were so focused on making a good impression.
Jamie started her own company, working with people in the same predicament as she was in. What began as a small venture working from home has evolved into a business she's been in now for more than a decade, and one which she was able to bring with her to Singapore when she moved here with her husband, an airline executive.
Many of these people give up their careers, they give up their communities, and they give up their own passions to follow their husband. So my goal is to support them to shift their focus from what they can't do whilst they're in Singapore to what they could do.
Singapore is home to tens of thousands of professional foreign workers. Many of them are in highly paid, demanding jobs where the hours are long and the overseas travel is extensive. Left to set up their new homes and often settle children into new schools are their partners, and a number of them struggle.
My husband was travelling, the kids were constantly sick. I had no other support really around me apart from one girlfriend who I was ringing in the middle of the night going, what do I do?
Sydney-sider Sally Dare moved to Singapore with her husband and 2 young children last year. When a friend recommended she attend one of Jamie's sessions a few months after she got here, she didn't hesitate. Neither did Michelle Dahl.
A lot of expat wives come here and their husbands are so busy, their ego is inflated by the job that they often take on, and you know their life doesn't change a great deal. Whereas for a woman coming here, it can change a lot. I know for a lot of women who end up having a helper in the house and they have particularly young children, or someone's doing all the work, cleaning, cooking, shopping, all of that, they all of a sudden find, well, where's my life at? What am I going to do?
Suddenly someone comes in.
Both women say Jamie has helped give them a sense of purpose.
Part of our homework was to write a letter. The letter was addressed to Jamie from myself, for example, in 12 months' time. And not talking about what might happen, but what I intended to happen, and how I was going to set that out over the next 12 months.
I love the independence and the freedom that my children have.
A number of trailing spouses end up establishing their own businesses. It's often much easier to be self-employed here than to get a job locally. And Jamie says the flexibility is a real plus, particularly if you have children.
Some of these women end up writing in their letters that they've really had a passion to become a teacher, or they've had a passion to write their own cookbook or write their own children's books. Some people are just actually really thankful to have the opportunity to spend time with their children because they didn't have that opportunity in Australia.
As well as counselling trailing spouses through word of mouth, Jamie runs courses for corporates who are increasingly placing more value on helping new expatriate employees and their families adjust to their unfamiliar surroundings.
So they realise that the impact of not supporting the family members can be really detrimental to the success of the assignment. So if I'm investing, and it is a significant investment to send somebody overseas, and that is not working out after a relatively short period of time, then it is at significant cost to the organisation.
Brookfield is one of the world's largest relocation companies, specialising in moving thousands of people a year.
A typical scenario would be that person arriving, so the employee arriving in the new host location, and what they would be doing is going into work and they're immediately being plugged into an infrastructure. So they have colleagues that they can interact with maybe at the outset, they can socialise with after work, as opposed to maybe a spouse. Well, you're not having that immediate network. They're at home, not benefiting.
When traditional roles are reversed, men can experience similar problems. Carlos Mari migrated to Australia from Venezuela in the late 1990s. Then, 3 years ago, the call came for his high-flying wife, a Google executive, to move to Singapore. Staying at home to look after their 2 children, he says he experienced culture shock.
In Singapore, everybody is expected to work. You know, when a person in our age, which is, you know, supposedly the prime of your productive life, comes back with the answer of, well, look, I look after the kids, or I look after, you know, the family, that doesn't register. You're supposed to be somewhere making a lot of money.
So Carlos set up the support group Amigo, which stands for Another Male Stay-at-Home Income Dependent Great Dad Otherwise. He says it helps having a sense of humour about his situation, but this is a group with a serious purpose.
The first few months can be a pretty big challenge. You don't know who to turn to. You have been working as an executive or as a professional. Suddenly you realize that you're a trailing spouse. You don't even have a permit to work part-time. You have to stay full-time looking at the kids, which perhaps in many cases is not your original purpose in life. And it's something that you have to learn how to do. For many men, that is a big ask. So in Amigo, we want to provide a support network, adult conversation, a group of peers that they can relate to, they can come up and ask the tough questions.
The group's still small, but through it, Carlos has teamed up with another Australian stay-at-home dad, Ian McLeod, who moved here from Brisbane.
The day we get our house renovations approved by council, my wife comes home and says, we're moving to Singapore. My wife works for Shell here, and Singapore's been good. Like most people, I was determined not to get a helper when we arrived. But my wife says this is my only chance in life, and so we've got a helper, and it's a wonderful way to live.
More and focus on what I want to do.
It's this kind of positive outlook that Jamie Simpson is keen to encourage, and it works for her, give or take a few small challenges. One of Jamie's real skills is honing in on what her clients are best at.
I'd always painted, but just when I had time, I wanted to expand on that. I wanted to learn how to paint properly.
She's definitely given me the confidence, I think, just to say yes to things, just to get out there and see what drives you. With all these things that I've done, I've suddenly realised I can probably do my own thing here.
Good job.
Jamie has goals as well, but her overriding aim is to make sure her family and other families around them are happy.
My personal goal is to build a healthy community, and that's a little bit of a selfish goal because I want my children to grow up in the expat world with other healthy families. So I would love to be able to expand this business throughout Asia in general, and be able to, I think the key is to try and find like-minded people to be able to do that with.